how they handled it. And they saw you not just for a few hours, but for several days, continuing to point the finger at ETA. And they also look at certain facts.
For one reason very clear, because the police services and intelligence services established that in their view, the responsibility is for ETA, is not for another interest. But when appear another elements, the government immediately give these elements to the opinion public. Immediately.
Within a very short time of the attacks, for example, they found a van at the commuter train station where it's now known that some of the bombers boarded a train for Madrid. They found Islamist tape recordings in that van. That was never publicized at the time. You didn't point to that sort of at all.
All the news in the hands of the government was communicated to the opinion public. All the news. No another news that not exists. For example, non exist suicide bombers, but some media sustain that exist suicide bombers. It's not true. It's not true. Another things about this question.
How do you explain? Sorry to interrupt, but how do you explain this then? That Mr. Zapatero claims that when he got into office, into the Prime Minister's office, he discovered that the computer records for those days, from March 11th to March 14th, had been erased from the Prime Minister's office's computer.
This isn't true. Excuse me.
So you are suggesting that the current Spanish Prime Minister is lying?
Absolutely.
People do believe that you are...
Without doubt, boss.
People believe that you are bitter. You are resentful about the way that your party was beaten in that election, and you remain bitter and resentful to this day. Because, for example, Mr. Zapatero has engineered, with his policies over the last 2 years, a ceasefire from the separatist group, ETA. According to the opinion polls I've seen, 60% of the Spanish public support that ceasefire and the idea of limited negotiations if the ceasefire holds. You and your party absolutely refuse to accept that policy.
Absolutely refuse to negotiate to ETA. They absolutely refuse to accept the possibility that one part of the Spain, to accept the separation of one part of the Spain. And this is the consequence of this negotiation. If this negotiation...
Mr. Zapatero hasn't accepted that. He simply said if there is a genuine, lasting ceasefire, he will talk to these people, just as Tony Blair decided that he would talk to Jerry Adams and Martin McGuinness in Northern Ireland.
But the two and Mr. Zapatero are the two things different and they're often incompatible as well. But the reality is that the government in this moment accepts the possibility to self-determination for the Basque Country in this negotiation. And this is unacceptable. Unacceptable for the major part of the Spaniards, unacceptable for my party, unacceptable for me.
Even though most Spaniards have accepted the autonomy for Catalonia, for example.
The more part of the Spaniards like, and I like, peace. But another question is to pay a price of terrorists for the peace. And I don't know accept this policy. Because it's a very serious mistake.
Could it be that events are showing that one needs to retain more flexibility, more subtlety, more nuance in one's approach to these sorts of problems than you have exhibited in the last 2-3 years, going all the way back to your support for the Iraq War?
Sorry, but there's no question of nuances in the terrorist war, in the fighting terrorists. There's no nuances.
The problem for you is that the Spanish public seem to have left you behind. They've moved on, even if you have not. As I say, 60% in the polls support the ceasefire, support talks with ETA, a clear majority. You're no longer in power.
70% of the people, Spanish people, support even the Socialist Party, my policy against ETA. Why is the reason? If ETA is an organization almost defeated in 2004, almost defeated, what is the reason to recuperate ETA? What is the reason to legalize one part of an organization or a terrorist group? How is it possible to defeat a terrorist group if you establish a negotiation with a terrorist group? How is it possible to defeat a terrorist group if you establish a legalization of one part of this terrorist group? How is it possible to defeat terrorists with this manner? This is the question. And this is the question for me now.
Europe.
It's more easy, Up to date, it's more easy. It's more easy to do nothing. It's more easy to go, it's necessary to do the dialogue, the appeasement, the containment with the terrorists. No, excuse me.
You see, you call it appeasement, a highly loaded word. Other people say that in the end, politics requires flexibility, and you show no flexibility. Right. And in the end, the Spanish people voted your party out, just as Mr. Berlusconi has been voted out in Italy. Tony Blair will soon be gone from the British political scene. 3 giant Western European leaders who supported the Iraq War and George Bush will soon be gone from the stage. Do you have any regret?
No, George Bush won the elections. If Spain not suffer the attack of September 11, I am sure my party won the elections. I'm sure my party won the elections, even without me as candidate. No?
Do you believe your views and your view of the global war on terror have any chance of winning over the European public?
Anyway, are my views, and I defend my views. The President Bush is a president that confront the results of September 11. And September 11 is not the result of the Bush's policy. It's not the result of the Iraqi crisis. Maybe can be the result of no reaction at all those attacks that the United States suffered.
So it's fair to say that where Bush leads, you will follow.
And I think that the reaction of administration and President Bush is a correct reaction. And I think the policy to expand freedom and democracy is a good policy. And I support this policy. It's very difficult, but trying to change the world for better. And for me, this is important.
Aznar, thank you very much for being on Hard.
Thank you very much.